going into the pharmacy museum. 有开吗 ？OK. Tour at 1 p.m. OK. Go. 进去啊。
Yeah.
They also have a courtyard here.敖费来到闹鬼处了，在哪里？快点！ Ledger 对，就是那里，他从那边把那个尸体丢下来，就是这里。Oh my god， 被阿飞找到了，命案现场。
Right over here. It'll make it easier to hear me and see things. Also, we're not leaving the room, so the more compact we are, the more it will seem like we're going places during the Cool, I think that's everybody. Awesome. I'll just start with some business. Like, thanks for coming. It affirms my interest in medical history when people come and want to hear me talk about it. Here comes the needle, so it's harder to tell. Hypodermic needle went into manufacturing in 1855. So prior to that, they just needed a point of entry. They would make an incision into your vein, or they could use a modestly accessible wound. And they'd stick the tip in and inject. And what they were injecting was not a pre-dissolved solution. It was medicine in its powdered form, allowing it to dissolve as it moved through the bloodstream. What? And then also this plunger doesn't fully retract, so there's no real access to the inside for cleaning, if anyone had a premonition of bacterial buildup. All right. Presumably for vaccines, which we're catching on. What's nice about this tool is that it's not made out of lead. It's made out of stainless steel, and it does come apart entirely. So you can clean every piece if you feel up to it. But really, what's noteworthy is not the instrument, but the apparatus it was sold with. This is called a sternopad, and it works like a gas lamp. So you light the wicks and then sterilize the needle prior to injection. You see that? There you go. So this is 1910. As I mentioned, it's between 1910 and 1920 that germ theory comes into American medical practice. This is a direct result of that knowledge. In the mirror, feeling sorry for yourself, which was strategic. That was a tactic. It was early placebo effect. The more mysterious and magical the doctor seemed, the greater faith people had in the medicine they were being given. So they wanted that air of mystery via removal. A very common oral form of medicine was, of course, the pill. Not the pill, a pill. So in order to make a pill, first the doctor would extract ingredients from these beautiful bottles. These are the species jars or apothecary shelf jars. Everything in the museum, to the best of our knowledge, does contain its original ingredients, which is exciting, admittedly slightly terrifying. Those would then be pulverized in this classic tool, mortar and pestle mortar, into a fine powder, which I have no idea what it is. So feel free to take a look if you're curious what a fine powder looks like, but don't inhale vigorously. So once it was in this state, they needed something to make it stick, and traditional binding agents were honey, soap, or detergent. Lots of lye-based substances, maybe Tide Pods, I don't know. Control. A lot of love powders, lucky, come to me, and what I like to think of as the antidote, get away. We have a list of the primary inventory of pharmacies in the 19th century, and it does include the essence of Bend Over, which we don't know anything about except it was popular, so we don't have it anymore. If you haven't already come to this conclusion, these don't really have anything to do with health and well-being. They have entirely to do with getting laid. That is absolutely accurate. It's important to acknowledge that voodoo in Louisiana was deeply linked to the institution of slavery. It came here mostly after the Haitian Revolution, which doubled the population. So for most practitioners, it had to do with survival and liberation. But it was available to literally anybody who wanted it. So the needs and the uses became really diverse. And the Catholics who are coming in here, they want a successful love life. So that's the kind of voodoo potion that you will find at the pharmacy. Things that would hopefully promote that. Unfortunately, these Catholics didn't want to say any of this out loud because the maintenance of their dignity was also a huge concern. So the pharmacists developed this interesting numbering system. Each potion had a corresponding number at the pharmacy. So you would ask for it by number and not by name, therefore being more discreet, hoping that no one within earshot had memorized the roster. So love potion number 9 was sold here, but it was just number 9 in the 19th century, and then presumably that song outed everybody. To look like you were dying, actually. And also the consumption of silver turns the body blue. If you can't afford to go that route, you're gonna turn to something like this, and in their minds that links them to the blue-blooded. But mostly it's just because sickness was a given reality for most people. And sort of poetically, they decided, let's incorporate it. So the tubercular, or the consumptive, and the syphilitic look became very much in vogue, and people started to actively make themselves look like they were ill all the time. Also, the upper class really wanted to manage this identity as people who never worked at all. And nothing says I've never worked more than looking like you were perpetually dying of a wasting disease. So they certainly wanted this emphasis of sickness linked to leisure and leisure linked to class. So since toxic substances were in high use, they were around, they were prolific. Strychnine was used to treat constipation. Supposedly, if you survive the muscle convulsions, you'll be quite regular. So if you didn't want to accidentally dose yourself with something that had a known adverse effect on the body, you could keep it in a poison bottle. These are poison bottles. We have more up there. They were all cobalt blue because of illiteracy. Color coding was very essential. They also all have a texture or ridge. There wasn't any electricity. So at night, if you're fumbling around in the dark because your candles or oil lamps have gone out, and you're the kind of person that keeps your gin next to your strychnine, you better hope you use one of these. You can identify it in the dark by touch. Things like infection was a big one, broken bones, dislocated joints, Or the common logic, I don't know what that problem is, so we'll cut it away and then you don't have it anymore. This is a metacarpal saw used for removing fingers and toes. Does anyone want to venture a guess as to who the primary surgeon was pre-20th century?
Barber.
Yeah, somebody said it, the barber. Everything else was a really good guess, but the barber was that person of low status that you would primarily go to for minor operations, which included bloodletting, boil lancing, and amputations. They were of such low status, and then also the red and white striped pole that we're familiar with comes from the barbers cleaning up their patients' pooled accumulated blood at the end of the day, then displaying those bloody rags out front so the illiterate could identify where the barber surgeon was located. This first one is the circular method. A single-edged blade like this would be used to cut around the circumference of the limb, so through the flesh and the muscle, cutting it down to the bone, but not cutting the bone. And they would push back the flesh and muscle, much like pushing back a tight sleeve. The second method is called the flap method, and this became more popular after the Civil War, don't ask me why. It's a double-edged blade called a catalan. This was used to cut swift V-shaped incisions out of the flesh. So they cut down to the bone and back out, creating flaps that could then be peeled back, much like peeling a very visceral banana. You're welcome. Then they would engage the bone saws. So these were what would be used to actually cut through the bone. Some durable old blades. Inevitably, this did result in a lot of fracturing and splintering of the bone during surgery. So whoever was the surgeon typically had at their disposal a whole slew of forceps and tweezers. This one is literally called the bone gnawing forceps. So this is what would be used to clean out, to smooth out the protruding surface of your recently amputated bone, to get rid of the jagged edges. And then the smaller tweezers were used to extract the bone particles, the splinters and fragments that had inevitably become embedded in your exposed tissue. Then they would pull that flesh and muscle over and sew it onto itself. And here's some 19th century, well, Civil War era actually, suture needles, which don't look very different because needles are a really old technology. And this did what it was intended to do. It curbed blood loss and it prepared the body for the attachment of a prosthetic. Unfortunately, a very crucial step was pretty much always being omitted in 19th century surgery, and that is sterilization. So most amputations did become gangrenous, and the treatment for infection was amputation. So amputation was not a one-off. It was actually a very high-maintenance procedure. You had to continually go back for further amputations, as each one would inevitably subsequently become infected. And that was actually a sick form of job security for the barber. It is the tonsil guillotine. So no medical justification. This was just a status thing associated with class. It was you basically were not considered marriage quality if you still had your tonsils. So loving parents would perform unconsensual body modification on their children, and hope that when they grew up they forgot. So the trigger-loaded blade would cut the tonsil, and then catch them, hopefully in the little bucket there, because you wouldn't want to choke. It was more effective than the other approach, which was spontaneous throat surgery. They would just incise the throat and remove the obstacle. It always resulted in death, but was very heroic. And unfortunately, nobody was coming to the pharmacy with a premonition that they were going to choke. So this was never in the right place at the right time. The manufacturing of a pill is the coding of a pill. And this is interesting to me because this is where it diverges along class lines, which a lot of things did. It was really polarized at this time. The upper class preferred to have their pills coated with precious metals.
Hi, we just finished the tour. What do you think, T?
I like it.
I really like it too. It's, the tour is so good, right? The tour guide is so interesting.
Yeah, he's really funny.
Learn so much about New Orleans history, learn about pharmacy, learn about surgery, learn about everything. Really? No, you fall asleep again? He likes it too. How do you think, Stina? Do you like it?
It's interesting.
I think it's definitely worth it. Just $5. You should
It's
definitely
at 1
check it out.
o'clock, so you should
weekday.
Only
Weekday. Yeah, only weekday has tour. You have to come here if you are in.
Close on Mondays.
Yeah, and it's closed on Monday. So if you're in the medicine, in the medical field, you have to come here and check out First Pharmacist in the U.S. Yeah.
Look at the logo.
The logo's right there. Woo. Thank you for watching our video. JS Adventure is a snippet of our daily lives and travel.
谢谢收看我们的频道 ，JS Adventure 记录了我们的日常生活跟旅游记事。
Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't. See you guys next time.
下集见，
拜拜。